fight alone will make us rich beyond our wildest dreams.
Happy Valentine's Day, Disenfranchised Nation. This is the Disenfranchised Podcast, that podcast all about those franchises of one, those films that fancy themselves full-fledged franchises before falling flat on their face after the first film. I am your host, Stephen Foxworthy, and love is in the air. It's all around us, everywhere we look, especially with my co-host, Tucker. How you doing, Tucker?
Hi, Stephen. How's it going? Happy Valentine's Day.
And also with you. This episode releases the 13th. Valentine's Day is tomorrow. And
Same
so
thing.
we are joined by our perennial Valentine's guest. Look, we've been doing the show for 5 years now, and there are very few things that have remained constant over the course of 5 years. But one of them is that when Valentine's Day rolls around, you better believe we're putting Mike Snoonian on the schedule. From the Pod and the Pendulum, it's the great Mike Snoonian. Mike, welcome back.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be back, Stephen. So if people are getting down to this on Valentine's Day, they could be just going to Pound Town right now.
Whoa.
I hope so.
This.
I hope so.
Amazing.
I hope that our entire listenership is boning to us talking about this movie, because honestly, there is no more romantic. God, I'm so tired. No more romantic film in the history of creation than the film we're talking about today. That we're talking about because of the release of Captain America: Brave New World in theaters tomorrow. Captain America 1990, directed by Albert Pyun, and starring Matt Salinger, Ronnie Cox, Scott Paulin, Ned Beatty, Darren McGavin, Bill Mumy. Yes,
Right.
that Bill Mumy. Just showing up in here. Melinda Dillon in this thing. Francesca Neri. What a cast.
Yeah,
And
dude.
dare I say it, gentlemen? What a picture.
Boy, it's a whopper, I tell you. This was a good one. This
It's
was a
something.
good one. I tell you what, based on its budget, I don't know why or how it got a theatrical release, but this is a perfect television film. This is a perfect early 90s TV movie. I don't know how, like I said, or why it got a theatrical release. Didn't need one.
It didn't
I
get
was
one in
checking-
the States. It got one overseas.
The only thing I checked on the IMDb was is this supposed to be in 4:3? Did they zoom this in? But it's not. It's shot in 1:5. It's a wide boy,
Mhm.
which you wouldn't be able to tell with all the close shots. It's shot like a television film.
Yeah.
It would be amazing
It's
if
real good though.
tomorrow, when everyone's headed to the theater for the new Captain America, you have some very disgruntled projectionists just say fuck it and throw this on instead, and then just lock the projection room, barricade himself in, and just see how long it would take theater goers to catch on.
I reckon not long. I think about 10 minutes in,
overestimate.
someone's going to be going, wait, where's Harrison Ford? I thought Anthony Mackie was in this.
Yeah, dude.
I mean,
I
that
think
would
a
be
fair
the most
amount of
epic way
people
to
would
quit
mistake
ever.
Ronnie
though.
Cox or Harrison Ford. People would make that. They both play the president.
Yeah. I mean, there's a similar look going on with both of them for sure.
Speaking of, I'm sorry, Steven, but this is important. How crazy is it that this plot so closely mirrors the plot of The Return of Captain Invincible? How is that? Remember the president's a kid and he meets the superhero, and then later and it's the president, and okay, so Captain Invincible became an alcoholic and Steve Rogers got frozen in ice. What's the fucking difference?
I think that you just said the difference.
I mean, that's
really.
the difference, but outside of that,
Pretty big
I mean,
difference.
I would say so. I mean, this is also not an Australian film. It's also not a musical.
I'm just saying Captain Invincible came before this. A year before this.
Well, I think it's probably one of those things where it's just, two people with similar ideas.
I could not believe that, though, when I knew at the beginning, when the kid took the picture, I was like, that kid, especially because at the beginning he's like, I'm going to be president, ma'am.
Right.
And you're like, oh, odd thing to include. Okay.
Chekhov's rogue comment. Yeah.
Yes.
If he doesn't say it at the beginning, how are we going to know it's the same guy when he does become president?
But it is sad that his friend that becomes a journalist dies. And like when he gives him the Captain Midnight thing at the end, he's like, yeah, homeboy didn't make it. And he's like, oh, shit. I was sadder than they were, honestly.
It was a reunion between Ned Beatty and Ronnie Cox from Deliverance, one of the great movies of the greatest decade in film ever, Deliverance.
They're always
directed by one John Boorman.
That's who directed Exorcist II: The Heretic. It's full circle.
We brought it back.
Listen to the Pot and the Pendulum episode where Mike and I struggle with Devon, who is really doing a lot of heavy lifting on that episode. In terms of like stumping for that movie, where Mike and I struggled to make it through Exorcist II: The Heretic.
He really did.
Yeah,
I love how Ned Beatty's character is I love how Ned Beatty's character, he's a journalist because he's always like chewing on a pencil. Like that is
and he's got 5 o'clock shadow glasses, and he always looks really stressed.
Yeah, it's called commitment to character is what that is. Like, and here's the thing. I feel like Ned Beatty and Darren McGavin especially know exactly, and honestly, Ronnie Cox too. All of those guys know exactly what movie they're in, and they're giving just the exact right performance for this movie. Like, I think their performances are part of why this movie stands out so much, honestly.
You know what the glue is? Actually, you're close, but the glue in this movie is the car bit where Steve Rogers is like, oh, wait, you guys, I feel sick. Hold up, pull over, I feel sick. Yes. And then he pulls the old loop-de-loop on him.
The old switcheroo.
Yep. Every time. I mean, it's like 5 times. And every time I'm like, he's gonna fucking do it again.
I love that's a running gag throughout this.
He's Captain America, and that's his go-to bit.
Honestly,
like, it's not something like crazy. It's just like, oh, I want to be sick. Pull over.
The only thing that would make it better is if after like the 3rd time he does it, he looks at the directly into the camera and goes, "That's right, kids. It's a running gag," and drives off. Just
nice,
perfect. Just like Kermit the Frog in the Muppet movie. Like, it's a running gag. We love it.
Yeah.
So, Mike, we kind of corralled you into this one. Last year, I looked at the calendar and realized there was going to be a Captain America movie coming out on Valentine's Day. So I kind of strong-armed you into this one. Do you have any kind of special affinity for Captain America, the character? Had you seen this movie prior to this watch? Like, what's kind of your history with Captain America?
I had definitely not watched this movie prior to last night. Night. I knew of its existence and knew that it's weird to me because at one point Canon Films held the rights to 3 of the most iconic superheroes ever.
And they squandered all of them.
They did manage to put Superman 4: A Quest for Peace into theaters. And that was only the second most tragic thing to ever happen to Christopher Reeves. And then they had the rights to Spider-Man.
Right. James Cameron was going to direct the Spider-Man movie.
Which I can't imagine, though, it would have had the budget it would have needed. I mean, you think James Cameron Spider-Man and you get excited, and then you're like, but by Canon Films. And
Canon Films, yeah.
It would probably look like those 1970s made for television films that I grew up on, that I remember watching.
It would have been Cameron coming off of like
Terminator.
Either Terminator or Piranha 2. Like, because that was his first move, the one he completely disowns, and like, oh, we don't count it because Cameron doesn't count it. It counts.
Terminator's 84, and I feel like it was definitely post Terminator.
Okay. But I mean, he comes out of the Corman school, so like those guys know how to work on a budget, but Cameron is kind of one of those guys that's like, give me the money, I need it.
Well, I also feel like Spider-Man's not something you can do on a budget. You know what I mean? Like it's, you got to sink some dough in there. And then you had Captain America.
Yeah.
Based on what I've heard from his treatment and his ideas for it, he was kind of a guy who just like, he knew who Spider-Man was and he had his ideas of a movie he wanted to make, but he didn't really care about staying close to the source material. He really just wanted to use the name to make something cool that he wanted to make.
Oh, like this movie.
What? No.
Kind of.
This is...
I mean, this movie is not super true. Like, it's not adhering to the comics in the way that, like, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man or even Joe Johnston's Captain America did.
Now, the fact that he's fighting against Red Skull instead of some no-name, like, crime boss says a lot, I think.
But it's not Red Skull. It's like, what if Red Skull was Italian instead of a Nazi? Because for some reason we're not saying Nazi.
What if Red Skull, even though they show the symbols, what if Red Skull was Jigsaw? Not Jigsaw from the Saw movies, but Jigsaw from Punisher. That's Jigsaw. That's more accurate. I was about to say, wait a minute. Yes. And then, thank you for clarifying. But I mean, this movie is so close to the comics that it predicts something from the MCU, that his sweetheart's daughter is named Sharon. Because you got Sharon Carter in the MCU, Peggy Carter's daughter, that he also has a weird thing with for a minute. Mm-hmm. Just like he has with Sharon in this, and it's like, no, calm down. That's never going to be comfortable. Like, that was your gal back in the day, just because that's weird. That would be like if I dated a girl in high school.
Yeah.
That would be like if I dated a girl in high school and then started dating her daughter now.
Yeah, don't do that.
That's weird.
Don't do that.
Maybe, but weird.
Tucker, do that.
Very
just
weird.
Report back.
No, I'm married, sir.
That's true.
To a very understanding man, but I don't think...
I was going to say, and I think you are also a very understanding man in that relationship. Let's be clear.
I truly am. But I like the legality. It's a moral thing for me. I'm a big believer in the half your age plus 7 rule. Big believer in that. So basically, anybody under 30 is off limits for me. That would be tough for him to date
anybody, though, because technically he is like 70-something years old in this movie. So it's going to be kind of hard for him to find.
Well, I kind of thought before they killed his sweetheart, which was very disturbing, them zipping her up. That was fucked up. Like, I didn't expect that in this movie. I was like, that's fucked up. And, Sharon's coming in, like, what the fuck? And they're just zipping her up. And it's like, holy shit. This movie just got real. Felt like Martin Lawrence and Bad Boys 2. I'm all like, shit just got real. And the camera's spinning around me. You know? Around and around. Steven, I answer the phone and Steven looks at me and I'm just like, shit just got real.
And I'm like, are you spinning around in a circle right now? And he's like, I don't know, maybe.
I'm like, no, that's the camera, man. Follow the camera.
I swear there's a camera down there.
There's a camera.
As far as like the comic adherence go, like I did read, I think it was like the Rob Liefeld drawn like Captain America comics, like back when like Captain America, Fantastic Four, and others got shifted into this other
Heroes Reborn
by, I think it was like a Fantastic Four story where like Franklin Reed dreams up anew. It's almost like that Twilight Zone episode where you can like that kid can think of like new world to send people to. I read.
Oh, there's a sequel to that. It's really good.
There is.
Yeah, in the early 2000s version with Forrest Whitaker, there's a sequel to it. It's really good. Yeah.
I read like the Ultimates when it first came out for a few years.
Girl, me too.
Mm-hmm. I read like the first 100 or so episodes of Ultimate Spider-Man. Like that was definitely my jam. I think that's still one of the best comic book runs of all time.
Except for that Mark Bagley art, am I right, guys? Ugh.
I liked
his art.
I like Bagley.
Am I the only one? I had to look. I grew up on his art because when I started getting into comics, he was drawing ASM back in the day, and I've always hated the way he draws faces.
Oh wow,
they're all so generic and like awful looking. All his bodies, the way he draws the human anatomy is just awful.
I feel that way about Chris Bacalo, honestly.
Mark Bagley's I
like the way he draws Spidey, though. I like Bagley's Spidey.
It's too cartoonish.
I was into it.
Don't
mind. Skinny. He's too skinny, especially Ultimate. Even
he's
for a child,
he's a scrawny little teenager.
Skinny. I was so glad when Magneto ended the world with that flood, and they switched to like the other art, like the even. And I don't like manga. You don't like manga or anime, any of that shit, outside of a few exceptions. And they started drawing it like a manga almost, and I was like, thank fuck. At least I don't have to look at Mark Bagley's bullshit anymore. His Venom
Shots
is the
fired.
worst. The worst. So lazy. His art's so lazy.
Damn, son.
Get me Romita, even early Romita Jr.
Well, I definitely love.
Bagley.
I prefer Romita Jr.'s Spider-Man art, but I did love Bagley's art on Ultimate. But I think John Romita Jr. is like, to me, just like I loved Jim Apparel's art for Batman in the '90s. Like that was my Batman artist of choice.
See, I'm a Neil Adams guy, but I like Jim too.
Yeah. But as far as like this movie adhering to Captain America, like my understanding is like Captain America is a symbol that he's out there in the world. Like people know who he is, and he's like a very public figure. And here he goes on one mission. He can't stop the Nazi at the beginning. Like, by the way, like great security, like definitely phenomenal vetting process that they're doing here.
Oh yes.
Where he's like, hey, great job, Heil Hitler, and everyone's like, what?
What?
Who let this guy in?
That very sinister man turned out to be sinister.
He gets his ass handed to him in his first mission by the Red Skull. Like Red Skull it's like if you have me against like 3 kindergarten kids, like I could beat the snot out of 3 kindergarten kids. Challenge accepted. I will do that. He just like wails on him, and then no one, like he's not a public figure. No one knows who he is. And then even at the end of the film, when they have that news broadcast, it's like strange message from the president saying, thank you, Captain America, wherever you are.
Right.
And it's like, isn't he supposed to be this, public symbol of the, and well, maybe we can talk about what that means now.
Right.
Which, if you're creating Captain America from scratch in 2024,
gosh, we thought we needed him
meaning.
15 years ago. Boy.
Right. Yeah.
Boy.
Captain America, we need you more now than ever.
Maybe we need Falcon, man. Maybe we need to see this new Captain America movie and see what's up.
Maybe we need to see Harrison Ford turn into a Red Hulk. And
I liked that show.
Captain America.
Like that show, the Falcon and Winter Soldier. That's, even though I liked Civil War and I liked Winter Soldier, that's more of the tone I wanted other Captain America movies to be, like spy thrillers. Yeah. I really liked that show. I know most people were like, yeah, that show was okay, but I really fucking dug that show. I was way into that show, and I wish they'd do another. The thing I
liked about that show was the thing everyone else hated, which was the Wyatt Russell as Captain America.
I thought that was fantastic.
That was really cool and a really great perspective on American foreign policy as it was at the time and kind of is now again.
Yeah. And I'm excited. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, I loved that angle, and everyone else was kind of like, this sucks. And I was like, you guys suck. That's awesome.
That was fantastic. And that character, I'm very interested. I want to see Thunderbolts mainly just for that character, because he's a very complicated character. He's not a bad guy, but he's not fucking Steve Rogers. That's the whole point.
That's the point.
And I'm very, very interested to see what they do with that character. Very, very interested. Probably more than any other character in the MCU. I want to see what happens to that motherfucker. Yeah.
This is where I say, like, I pretty much have zero interest in anything in the MCU.
That's totally fair. I'm kind of right there with you. I'm not, like, Endgame was such a good jump off point that I was kind of like, you know what? I've committed to this thing for like the last 11 years. I'm okay. And I don't feel like I need to see anymore, but there are some things about it that interest me more than others. Some of them I get around to eventually. Some of them I just watch the spoilers on the internet and be like, oh, that's what happened. Okay, cool. But yeah,
I'll tell you, I'm not as excited about it as I once was, but I will never not watch something MCU because I look at it the same way I look at the comics. Like there's going to be a shitty issue here and there, but I'm going to keep reading the comic because I want to know what happens to the characters. I want to know what happens next. Like, especially now that there's so many things happening, I want to see, how this goes with that, what's going to cross over, just like with the comics. Like, I know there's going to be some duds, and I sat through Secret Invasion. So I get it. It can be really bad. Like, I would say most of the time it's not. The majority of the time it's at least good. But every once in a while it's bad, but I'm going to stick with it just like I've watched every fucking Halloween movie, even though basically everything between 2 and the Rob Zombie remakes kind of sucked. Well, H2O was good. And Resurrection was bad good. 4 is okay.
4 is terrific. 4 is
like, oh man, I'm so glad Michael Myers is back. Terrific, though. It does have that kid from Dazed and Confused in it, though, so I'm always into that.
His Sasha Jenkins, his eyebrows. It has
a handsome boy.
It has a group of 10-year-olds tormenting an orphan by yelling, "Jamie's an orphan."
I do like 6 better than 4, though. Hot take.
I love 6.
Producer's
I love
cut?
6.
Producer's cut?
I think between the producers and the theatrical, there's one terrific movie. I would say I prefer the producer's cut.
I do too.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think if you kind of squished those two together, taking the best parts from both, you'd have a really damn good Halloween movie. But I like both versions, but producer's cut's my favorite. But 6, I think, is my favorite main first original timeline sequel.
Yeah, I could see that because it's the first one since 2 where Michael feels like Michael, at least for like a good chunk of the movie, in terms of like being the Shape again. Like, I can totally understand that. And I don't know, I feel like with the MCU, there's just so much work to do. Like, I forgot until you mentioned it that Secret Invasion existed, and it feels like one of those things where, like, if you want to go see one of these movies now, you have to watch. It's almost like it's the same issue with comic books where everything is so interconnected. It's like, rather than just tell one character's story in their book, it's almost like you have to read all of these crossovers that go through multiple books. And it's like, I don't want to do that. Number one, comic books are expensive now. I mean, I think they're like at least $6 for a print comic.
Louise.
For certain issues. Yeah.
It's almost cheaper editions anymore.
It's almost cheaper at this point to just get the online like streaming access to the actual like publisher and just stream them all from there.
I feel like that would hurt my eyes. Are there direct editions anymore? Can I get it delivered to my house?
I'm sure there are.
I'm not.
That's how I did it when I was a kid.
You can go. I would go to the comic store and just like load up back in the day. Like, I would.
You'd have a poll box for sure.
Yeah,
Tucker and I had one at the same comic book store and didn't even know it. I think Brett too.
Mine a few times, yeah. As he was a little helper.
I feel like now it's just too much work with the Marvel U to keep up with everything.
Agreed.
To know, like, I don't want to have to watch 10 hours of backstory before I head into like a 2-hour and change movie.
Which is still itself going to be a commercial for the next one. That's the thing, is like none of this is it. You can't end any of it ever. Mm-hmm. And that's why I felt like if I don't get off at Endgame, I'm never getting off.
Right.
I kind of disagree. I think there are a lot of the films have stingers that, hint to other things, but there are, I would say, at least a third of everything Marvel puts out, even though it's a part of the universe as a whole, is like a bottle episode. I would consider things like Agatha All Along, that's a bottle episode.
It's not though, because at the end you get the tease for Vision Quest and the other twin.
But that story completes, is what I'm saying. The way that you're presenting it is that like these stories just don't end. They just go into something else. But there are things that have a definitive end. It's not like a season of television where it cliffhangers onto something. Mm-hmm. It's like, this story is here. We've had this many episodes to tell this story, and we're going to tell you that it's going to lead into this, but this is done. This has happened.
I think like the Doctor Strange and the multiverse movie, like the second Doctor Strange film is a good example where that becomes a Scarlet Witch movie just as much. And I think that can you enjoy it without having seen Scarlet? Was it WandaVision? Sure, but like I think you contextually need to have watched that show, which is a terrific show. Like
It is.
I would recommend watching it, but I feel like I needed to have seen that in order to really grasp what was going on.
Definitely.
I would argue that you're correct in certain situations. If
Okay,
Multiverse of Madness is someone's first MCU movie, I don't know how it would be, but welcome, I guess.
I mean, Sam Raimi is how it would be.
Yeah, but you can follow what's going on. Like, you don't have to have seen WandaVision, but I think where you're hitting the nail on the head is if you've seen everything but WandaVision. Like, you saw Scarlet Witch in everything but WandaVision when she goes cuckoo banana pants and leads to how she is in Multiverse of Madness. If you go from like Age of Ultron to Multiverse of Madness, you'd be like, wait, what happened? What happened to Wanda, man? What's going on?
Right.
What's going on? And that's
sure.
And it kind of speaks to what you're saying, that you do have to watch all of it. Like, you can't pick and choose. You can't watch this and then skip that, because then you're going to be lost. Like, yeah.
Which is why, honestly, it kind of makes sense to just dip out if you're not committed to the whole thing.
Yo, speaking of Agatha All Along, though, what about Evan Peters' return? I found that quite enjoyable. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Didn't see Agatha All Along, honestly.
Evan Peters, but you saw WandaVision.
Yeah.
You know, Evan Peters was Johnny Boner or whatever his name is.
Yeah, Boner.
Yeah.
Boner.
He comes back in Agatha All Along, and he's fucking traumatized. Like, he's completely insane.
I would imagine so.
Fucked up. It's fucked up.
No one plays fucked up better than Evan Peters. Really. That kid is great at playing fucked up.
He's good. I like him. Yeah.
He's a good actor. He's a very good actor.
I've gotten us so off track, and I apologize. Captain America was so rad.
How would you say Evan Peters compares to Matt Salinger?
I mean,
like, where is he on the scale?
Salinger's a better Cap. I don't want to see Evan Peters as Captain America. Is what
true,
I'll say.
But I also don't want to see Matt Salinger play any other characters. I mean, honestly,
that's also true.
Tucker, had you seen this movie prior, and what's your relationship with the good captain?
Look, I had no idea what this movie was. You heard me last week. I thought it was the 1979 version with Homeboy from Space Mutiny.
Beef McLarge, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that's this one, but it wasn't. And it took me a couple seconds to realize it wasn't, and to realize that it was really, really good. No, I've always been aware of Captain America. My comics renaissance during my middle school and high school days, I was getting direct editions of Amazing Spider-Man and What If to my door. And when they ended that run of What If, they just sent me Avengers throughout through the rest of it. But I am aware of Captain America. I'm familiar with him, and I have been since my comic days. But I didn't know that this movie existed at all. And gosh, I'm upset that I didn't.
Because this is the epitome of a Tucker film.
All
honestly.
the time I could have been watching this movie, and no one told me.
And you know who was watching this movie the whole time, Tucker?
You were, you dingus.
It was me. I watched this movie so many times as a kid. I remember watching it at home. I remember watching it at my grandmother's. Like, I don't think, and it's not one we recorded off of the television. It was just one that like was on TV a lot when I was growing up. So I kind of
being on TV.
It absolutely was. Starting in about 92, it was on TV a lot. And I've watched it a lot. I feel like it was on one of the cable channel, like maybe like a TBS TNT kind of thing, maybe.
Sounds like more of a USA thing.
Or your USA. I remember it being on Sunday afternoons, though, is usually when I would catch it. Like, my parents would take a nap in the afternoons after church, after Sunday church and Sunday dinner, they'd take a nap, and I would just get to watch TV. And usually I would end up watching just a really stupid, silly movie on one of the channels, because that was when you would get to watch stupid, silly movies, was on Sunday afternoons. And I remember watching this one a lot. This one was in the regular rotation on the stations that I would tune into.
Nice.
So I grew up with this one. This was probably my first introduction to Captain America. There are parts of this movie, I was telling you before we recorded, Mike, that I remember vividly, like Captain America and the president meeting in the castle and like exchanging the medallion, and him going, "Oh, I've been waiting for this moment for all my life," and Captain going, "Oh, gee whiz." Like, I remember that so well. I remember the bit at the end where Red Skull bites it with the shield. Like, I remember all of that. Like the beginning of this movie, though, no memory of it whatsoever. I was just like, wow, these people are speaking a lot of Italian. I had no idea. Did not remember that at all. But like the final showdown etched in my memory.
I almost wonder if they like would cut it for TV and not even show that beginning. Because it's 90, if they would cut it for length and be like, if there's anything that can go, it's the opening scene where they're like speaking in Italian.
It kind of makes the ending make no sense, though, because that's the whole, like, with the recording, that's the thing that ends up making him like zone out for long enough for him to throw the shield, I guess.
Yeah. But I mean, you're talking about like the executives at TBS or USA. They're not,
right.
You know, they're not cutting War and Peace here. You know what I mean? They're like, what we need to fill 2 hours and we need to sell Count Chocula during the ad breaks.
Correct. But yeah, no, I remember this and then when I got older, I became a big Captain America fan. Like, Captain America is one of my top 5 favorite superheroes. Easy. And that honestly is largely because of the Johnny Raber, John Cassidy run after 9/11. Like, that run is unimpeachable. I love that run. It is the run that made me a Cap fan.
Okay.
And so I became a Cap fan in late 2001, and I remain one to this day. And that is my Captain America.
When you watch this movie as a kid, did you have like at least like a passing familiarity with like the Avengers and Hulk and Iron Man, or were those like completely?
Steven's a DC boy.
I'm a DC boy. My Marvel knowledge came much later, mostly through the X-Men, and then the X-Men were like outlawed by my Christian elementary school and by my
minorities, right?
Because mutation and evolution,
because racism,
and
right?
We believe because we believe that God created everything, therefore evolution is a hoax, and we don't believe it.
Did you Ben Affleck, Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back them fictional characters?
I did not. I tried.
You should have.
I tried. My buddy Justin was such a big comic book fan. Shout out to Justin Knapp. Love that guy. He has his own Wikipedia page, was the first man to get 1 million edits on Wikipedia. Shout out Justin Knapp, my elementary school friend.
Wasn't he also the original, one of Tom Hanks's original neighbors in The Burbs? He was one of the Naps?
No. He did audition to play Babe Ruth young Babe Ruth in the movie The Babe, starring John Goodman, though.
Destined for fame, dude. That's your Wikipedia boy, dude.
That's my guy. He actually created a case and presented it to the principal of our elementary school as to why we should be allowed to like read X-Men comics, and he was shot down. But no, he
was right.
Even though he was right, let the record show. But yeah, no, I am
stunned an elementary school administrator to want to shut down the musings of one of their students. Like, that is the most shocking takeaway from this whole episode.
Reminding everyone that Mike is a school counselor, and so sees this kind of stuff on the regular. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I almost wanted to call you a school psychiatrist, and I'm like, is that accurate? Counselor seems more accurate.
It's a
but
counselor.
I don't call them
There are
that
school
anymore.
psychologists. That's what my wife does. It's all testing.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's all in the family.
Hmm?
Yeah.
My poor kid.
She's raised by mental health professionals. She's
Doesn't just the damage we can do. It just let's put it that way.
I mean, at least you understand that. At least you're raising her to understand why therapy is important, so she'll know why she needs to go later in life.
Exactly. So
That's
when
it.
she's like, "Yeah," I tried to convince her tonight that like my wife's father, when he was alive, used to wear bow ties all the time, but he would wear them with muscle shirts. And my wife, like, as soon as it left my mouth, she was like, "He did not." And I'm like, "Can you just play along for like 30 seconds?
Can
Like,
we
what's
just
the harm?
commit to a bit for a
What's
little
the
bit
harm?
around here?
What's the harm?"
Can we just create an atmosphere where she's allowed to just wonder if something is true for the rest of her
She
life?
knows
Like,
how full of
please?
shit I am. I mean, she
Lies are
definitely-
hilarious, though.
Definitely.
Lies are hilarious.
I was gonna say I'm not a parent, so I mean, you guys. I'm gonna have to trust you guys on this one.
I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum on that one.
That's fair.
But I respect game is what I'm saying.
Wait,
We might
the
not do it
opposite
the
end
same
of
way, but
it's the opposite end of the spectrum, as in
excuse me, I have trust issues because when my parents told me that they had been lying to me about Santa Claus being real, I never believed another word out of their mouth.
really
Really. And it's given me
Wow,
trust
okay.
issues my entire life. So,
interesting.
like, I'm in no way saying that lies are not funny, because they are. Sometimes
Because you just said they were.
Lies are hilarious.
Rewind it 20 seconds, listener. You'll hear him say it himself.
Lies are hilarious, but I can't get down that way. And that's
we have
on me.
kids that are interviewing this week for like this trade school, and it's very competitive to get in, so they have to interview. And I've offered like this lunch group of 8th graders. I'm like, when they ask you, why do you want to go here? What's your answer? And they say what program I want to get in, automotive or culinary or coding. I'm like, no, the answer is hot chicks. I want to go because I heard there's hot chicks. And they all looked at me. And I'm like, look, I will pay one of you like $100 to say that in an interview. Like, please. And one of them was like, oh, okay, in. And I had to chase him down and be like, I am not going to pay you $100 to.
I've thought about this, and this might be a bad
sabotage.
idea.
That sounds like the kind of shit I would have done when I was teaching, honestly.
I could see the call from the admin. Can you come in for this parent meeting? They want to know why
their child said hot chicks.
Hot chicks for $100. So this is my last year working in public education, so we're letting it all out.
I mean,
Captain America.
if you're not going to have fun, you should have fun.
Do you think Captain America wanted to become Cap because of the hot chicks? Was that like part of what lured him in?
I have to imagine that in some version of the character, that is accurate.
Yeah.
Like somewhere out there is a Captain America who's like, I'm doing it for the babes.
Yeah.
Honestly, that might be the Wyatt Russell version of the character. Honestly.
That would be great. I feel for, is it Sharon? Is it the blonde woman, Sharon?
Yeah, the daughter. Yeah.
I feel for Sharon's dad, who
Jack,
just living life. Like Jack is just living life, raising his kid, and
thinking his wife loves him and isn't harboring love for a.
Yeah, look, if she hadn't died, I'm pretty sure. I mean, the way they were kind of acting around each other, he was going to be out of the picture
counseling
real
ain't
soon.
fixing that.
Right.
Yeah. Marriage counseling is not fixing those. You know, your ex-boyfriend was Captain America. How do I get there? And the answer is you don't.
You don't. Because she basically says
he's
that.
Still 25 years old.
Yes.
So, hey.
And wants to smush.
I was going to
I know you're old.
She says Jack is a good man, he's a good father, and she trails off. And what is unsaid is he doesn't wreck my guts like you did.
Yeah.
Really, that's what's there.
And still could.
and still
because
and wood.
you are youthful and full of young and dumb and full of cum. Is that what they say?
That's
a
the
saying. That's a saying I've heard. Yeah. I don't know if that's one I've ever uttered, but it's what I've heard.
I was going to say I've heard the boomers say it for sure.
First time.
And
Hi.
Poor Jack is just like in the Burka Lounger, just like I want to watch my programs,
just living his fucking life.
Yeah,
just and he's like for 50 years he's been married to this bit, right? And they've had a great life. They got a daughter. They got a wonderful home together. And all of a sudden, this motherfucker here.
He comes walking through the front door, and then he brings a bunch of Italian fascist soldiers in. Like, come on, dude.
And he ends up shot and his wife dead. Like, that's what Jack's reward is.
Right.
And then at the end of this movie, he's like, great. And now this dude who broke up my marriage is going to
fuck my daughter.
He's going to impregnate my daughter. Like, that is...
This is fantastic. And it was going so well for him. Before that, there's like the before Captain America and after Captain America, and they're just so drastically different. This man's life is just so drastically different after that point.
In the span of like an hour, his life falls apart in an hour.
If there was a sequel, like Jack is your big bad of like part 2, The Revenge of Jack.
No, I just want I just want a short film with everything that he went through in this film. I want to follow him to the hospital. He's in the hospital. Nobody's there with him. His family's not there to comfort him.
Not even his fucking daughter, because his daughter's hanging on Captain America's junk.
This man is just like, just breathing and not saying anything and looking straight ahead for like 45 minutes, and that's the whole movie. And you're like,
we don't even care enough to give this man dialogue. That's where we're at with this guy.
You just look at him and you have to imagine what he's thinking, just because he's so dead inside now, dude. Like his whole
literally and
world.
physically.
He had it all. He had it all, you guys. And just
there should be a
like that
scene
like that
where like Captain America like pulls him aside. He's like, just so you know, like, I believe in wholesome values, and your daughter and I are going to wait till marriage. We're going to do that. But then he's like, but at the same time, like, butt stuff is on the table. So that's what we're going to do.
We're doing this Catholic style. Let's go.
Would be,
or I want to see him lean in and go, by the way, I just wanted you to know I've been inside your wife and your daughter.
Or he could shake the bed for them.
They're not Mormons.
Like the thing with the Mormons where they're like, oops, straight up oops.
They're not from Utah. They're from Redondo Beach. Believe me, people in Redondo Beach be fucking.
Is it in there again? How did that happen? I'm just bouncing around on this bed.
Did they have to pay Marvel a by the minute like rights fee for how long Salinger wears the Captain America suit? Because I can't think of any other reason why he spends this whole like second act in like jeans and a white button down.
Right.
Like, that is what everybody wants. They want, preppy Steve Rogers.
I actually prefer him in the context of this movie in that outfit. I don't want to see that. Is not a great costume. It's great when I see it, but it's not fantastic, and I wouldn't want to see it the whole movie. And I also think it's really that the filmmakers weren't really trying to make a superhero movie. Like, they did what they had to do to make it a superhero movie, but I don't think it was their goal to make this a comic book movie. They just wanted to make it a regular ass movie with some comic characters in it. And I think having him out of the costume makes it, sorry, Steven, you know what I'm saying? Having him out of the costume for most of that time makes it feel more grounded and not like some fantastical superhero thing. And that's also why Red Skull is all covered up anyway. Sorry, Steven, go.
It's an 80s action movie. Like, this was released in 1990. So this is, in a lot of ways, this is an 80s action film that just happens to have some Captain America in it. And the comic book elements, and this speaks to, again, where we are in terms of like comic book movies being made, the comic book elements kind of feel a little shoehorned in service. And again, this was scheduled to be a canon movie. The only thing that keeps it from being a canon movie is that Menachem Golan had basically been fired from canon at that point, and this was part of his severance package that he got to like take this with him. So a canon movie in all but name, really. And so it feels like a late 80s canon action movie, and there's a superhero in it sometimes.
No. Well, they do.
It's filmed pre-Burton's Batman as well,
correct,
which is what changes kind of the landscape in a lot of ways.
100%.
And it's funny, you watch Burton's Batman now and you're like, this is pretty campy. Like, it's kind of funny to think like this was considered a dark and gritty film back in 1989.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty campy when you watch it now in terms of its like tone and its delivery, especially compared to what we have now. But this would have been, with Captain America, like there's no blueprint for that kind of
exactly
super, like what Nolan does with The Dark Knight, which is like, I want to make a Michael Mann film just also with a superhero.
Exactly.
Like you're not getting that in 1988, 1989. And
this is, I want to make a Chuck Norris action movie, but with a superhero. Like, really is kind of what this comes down to, and what this ends up looking like is. And Albert Pune is the director of this film, is a canon guy. Like, he's worked with canon before. Menachem Golan calls him in because he's a reliable hand. And so he makes this movie. He makes a lot of changes to the script. He changes the look of the Red Skull because he didn't think people are going to want to look at that craggly face for the entire 90 minutes of this movie.
His squishy face. It looked very squishy. I liked both versions, the Red Skull version and the Jigsaw looking version. I think this film,
I liked the original, the early one in the movie. Like, that feels really like kind of gross and disturbing. And that's the one Pune's like, we can't do this for 90 minutes.
Well, that's another one where it doesn't work for 90 minutes. It loses its power, and
Touché.
In a movie like this, and you were saying, Stephen, that it's a lot like an 80s action movie, but I would also argue that it has a lot of influence from 70s action films and thrillers, especially the internationality of it all, and driving around in little foreign cars and little foreign car chases and a fucking Fiat, looking like Mr. Incredible in that bitch. Like,
I was gonna say, and he's dressed like a little Italian gentleman, like a guy on vacation in Italy for like a month.
Yes, dude. It's kind of an adventure action, 70s, 80s adventure action thriller that just happens to be about a comic book character.
Right. And that's why, again, and you're right, Mike, we don't have the language, like the language for this. The most popular superhero movie up to this point was the Christopher Reeve Superman. Like, that's been the biggest one. And then Burton kind of changes the landscape the year before they finally release this one internationally, and like 4 years before they release it in the United States. Like, it's Burton changes the game, and Nolan will do it later. And here's the thing, Nolan and Marvel do it the same year, and Marvel's way ends up being the template for moving forward. Iron Man ends up being that template rather than the Dark Knight, where it is Nolan's trying to make everything very grounded and real. Marvel just goes, fuck it, we're just going to keep these things as true to the comic books as possible. Reality and believability be damned. And that ends up working.
It was smart for them to start on a relatively grounded character, though, to ease everybody into because now, like, if you look at Iron Man and your suspension of disbelief in that, and then like the most recent MCU thing where they're in space doing magic and shit, you're like, whoa, wait a minute, how did we get here? How did we get here?
And that's the magic of what Feige did, is he kind of eases everyone into the waters, and then slow, like the frog in the pot, like just the frog swimming around, and you just slowly ramp up that heat so you don't even know what's happening to you until you're boiled alive.
Dude, yeah.
And Marvel's comic book movies are the only kind of movies that get made.
Oh, I think what you just said there, I think we're a little bit past that now, but there was a stretch of time when Marvel was at its peak where it felt like, instead of making a rom-com, we'll make Thor Love and Thunder. Like, we'll make a Thor movie with romance in it. Instead of making a grounded like spy film or an action thriller, we'll make Captain America Winter Soldier. Like, what Marvel was doing was like, we'll kind of sort of play in these genre tropes a little bit, under the umbrella of like superhero films, and that's what the theaters are being overloaded with. And there is definitely a place for those movies. Like, I'm not a huge Marvel movie fan. I'm also not against those movies being out. Like, rising tides lift all boats.
Right.
There was a while though where you would not get what I miss, which are the $20 to $30 million made for adult dramas, psychological thrillers, erotic thrillers, slice of life movies, like coming of age movies, like things where you're
like State and Maine.
I've never watched State and Maine.
Yeah.
Tucker loves State and Maine.
I love State and Maine.
But I'm thinking like my daughter introduced me to Perks of Being a Wildflower. It's like one of her favorite
Wallflower
movies.
Yeah.
Like, Wallflower, yes. And I'm like, what a delight.
That's a really good movie.
There needs to be more stuff like this right now.
Right.
I've been going back and watching like a lot of films from the 70s and also like just like the 90s when I first became like a huge film nerd. And I'm like, I miss this period in like American cinema where it felt like there were big blockbuster and event movies, but like underneath that swell, there was a lot of phenomenal, like I'm going to mispronounce it, but like Greg Arki, who did The Doom Generation and Nowhere.
Korrecki. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, thank you. Who made this like phenomenal, like coming of age queer cinema that was also like incredibly fucked up and narratively all over the place. And you're like, there was an audience for it. Like it would find a home.
Exactly.
I miss a time like that. And I feel like that is a little bit of what was missing. Although I do feel like the pendulum has swung a little bit more, and, you know, like all things, like nothing lasts forever.
Right.
Like, you know, nothing is, you know, everything has its peak and then it will fall. And then maybe we'll get like another phase where, nope, like Marvel is great again. And there will be like a stretch of films that everybody wants to see.
Right.
But nothing ever really truly dies either, which
True.
is why I would say the kind of movies that you're describing, those exist, but most of the time they're not coming out in theaters. They're either just coming exclusively to streaming services, or I think your 6 to 10 episode TV season is kind of the new movie in a way.
I don't love that.
I don't either, but when it works, it's really fantastic to see.
Sure.
I forgot where I was going with that.
Like TV is almost never allowed to end. If you have like a good
I'm saying the
first season,
the kind of films that you're talking about, that stuff still exists. There's still weird stuff that's really good and stuff that's like breaking the mold. It's just not the stuff that's sometimes coming to theaters. Like one of the best things I've seen in the last 10 years, and it sucks because I can't even think of what the name of it is, was a rotoscope animated series on Amazon Prime that was 2 6-episode seasons. That was so weird and so like nothing I'd ever seen before, and not in an it insists upon itself kind of way, but in a really organic kind of way that it's one of the most fantastic things that I've seen, and it's rated high, but nobody's fucking watched it. So like that kind of shit exists. Like it's out undone.
That's
Thank you,
an issue
yes,
though.
Rosa Salazar.
When films don't go to theaters, because there's just so much content coming out.
There's too much
in streaming. You're exactly right. There's too much. It's impossible to keep up with, and it's also with the algorithm, it's impossible to discover things sometimes because that joy of discovery is not there, where say 20, 30 years ago, there was a culture that said, okay, like even if it's only in a handful of theaters in a small amount of cities, just getting your film in a theater, I think, was automatically going to kind of raise the profile of that film. And you see that with horror still. What IFC and Shudder and Neon have been able to do is like you get these titles like Late Night with the Devil, It's a Wonderful Knife, Arcadia, that get even a limited Where Evil Lurks, that get this limited theatrical run. And in some cases, you get massive hits, like The Substance ends up being a massive hit and is going to win some Oscars. Can't wait.
For sure. Yeah, me neither.
If that was just a straight to streaming film, you just kind of forget about it. Like, it just has a moment, like maybe it gets some great profiles for a weekend and it hits some of your favorite letterboxers reviews, but then it kind of goes away.
Right.
Yeah. It all feels very disposable these days too, because even when I do 100%. See something that's like super profound, it doesn't hit me the same way it would have when wasn't just constantly berated with so much content all the time. Like, I'm always watching something. Like, I don't like it, but I'm always looking at a fucking screen for some reason or another. Like, I'm never turned off. So like, it's not as exciting as it was when you'd be out doing stuff and you'd be like, oh shit, I'm going to stop by the video store and I have a limited time to pick something out. And that's what I have to take home and watch. And I'm stuck with it for 2 days, you know?
Yep.
It's also just, it all feels so disposable, and it's a shame. I'm trying to figure out how to make it not feel like that anymore.
Right.
I miss the thrill of the hunt. I miss when, I miss hearing about a band and like driving to record stores and finding that 7-inch record, like finding that band demo, and after like 5 places not having it, being able to get my hands on it. Like, that is something that is like thrilling and exciting, that is lost when it just pops up in your daily playlist or someone mentions them to you and you just, with a few clicks on your phone, it's like, great, their whole discography is right in front of me.
And the stakes were higher back then. Like, you had to figure out, like, even when you bought something blind like that, that's one thing I will concede. As much as I hate the way that streaming services pay their artists, I think music streaming is fantastic because I don't have to buy a record blind anymore.
Sure.
There's been so many CDs and records that I've bought that I'm like, oh, I'm probably going to like this. And I buy it and I fucking hate it. And that's like $15 in 1997 money. You guys, that's a lot for something I'm never going to listen to again. Like, with music streaming, like, that's the reason I have so much vinyl now, is because before music streaming, I was afraid to buy blindly unless it was like a Goodwill. And you can't find good records at Goodwill anymore. So
you cannot.
No,
streaming has saved me, because if there's something I think I might like, I can listen to it and be like, oh yeah, I could listen to this over and over again. I should buy it on vinyl. Yeah. I don't remember how you got me on that rant, but
well, I mean, the thrill of the hunt, and you know, in some ways I do get that. I mean, I can still get that though, just because for me, I guess I'm less of a hunter and more of a gatherer. So when like my friends are coming in and talking about, like, when the hosts of the Pod and the Pendulum are all chatting about like a good horror movie or something to watch, or something that they, like when you and Ari went to Telluride this year and were given all your festival recommendations, I was taking notes, and I didn't get to see them until much later. And that top 10, after that top 10 episode, I had my watch list like grew exponentially, and I was seeking out and watching stuff. And my partner and I watched Red Rooms and were fucking blown away by it. Like, we got to have those. And for me, those are the fun discoveries. And I love when my friends bring me that stuff, like, and I get to see like which of, and basically help me suss out what of this is worthwhile, what of this is worth checking out. And when someone comes to me with a personalized recommendation and says, I think you would really dig this, then I get to like click on and go, okay, I was curious. I had questions. Those have been resolved. Let me check this out and let me engage with this piece now. And I find that so many more of my watch experiences are more beneficial when in that mold. So I'm again less of a hunter, more of a gatherer. But bring me your recommendations. What are the movies you think I would like, and I'll check them out. eventually. Maybe not right away, but I'll get there.
Dude, yeah.
As Tucker can attest, maybe not immediately, but I'll get there.
He'll get there. He always gets there.
Well, on that note too, I do miss that. And like Tucker, you just hit it because things cost so much now. It is a lot riskier to just blind buy or just take a chance on something. We watched last night, we did family movie night, was Jackie Brown. Because that was my wife and I's like first date like 21 years ago. We went to like a midnight screening of that. Which, if you don't know, my wife, getting her to go out at midnight was like,
it's Jackie Brown.
That's a feat. Right.
You
but
can get me out of bed for Jackie Brown, and you could wake me up out of bed and say, we're going to see Jackie Brown. I'd be like, okay.
Yeah. So Robert Forster has a line in that where he's like, I'm going to a movie. Like, what are you going to see? Don't know, but whatever's playing soon and looks good. And I kind of missed that. Kind of like what you mentioned, Tucker, like going to the video store and going through like the cover art, the poster art, and being like, this looks fucking great. Like, I never would have watched the Subspecies movies if that box art didn't look fucking amazing. And now, like, I don't want to live in a world where I haven't watched Subspecies 2 fucking 400 times.
That's fair.
You know, it's
very
great.
Fair. Yes.
That's amazing. I love that so much.
Have we talked about this movie?
Yeah, we were talking about how rad it is.
Minutes?
Well, see, that's kind of the thing about this podcast. Is like we talk about movies, but also we goof around a bit. Mm-hmm. You know.
And honestly, I love these conversations are some of my favorites in these episodes. Like we're talking about the 1990 Matt Salinger, Albert Pyun, Captain America film, and yet we're having a conversation about the state of modern movie going and modern film watching. And I love that we're able to get there from here.
I think what used to be a very tangential podcast where we just go on a lot of tangents, now it feels like probably in the last 8 to 10 months that we've moved more towards just using the film as a springboard to talk about the things we really want to talk about.
Right.
There we go.
We keep it in context. We always, you know, we lock it in.
This movie is the reason why J.D. Salinger became a recluse, right?
But
like
why?
He was so disappointed.
What? This movie's
I don't know.
Though. Did he see the movie? It's fantastic. It's badass. I use the word badass to describe it. I don't use the word badass.
It's definitely, I would call this an enjoyable romp because it feels like, I think you had said, Stephen, everybody is trying very hard, but like Ronnie Cox, like he knows what he's doing.
He does.
You know, he knows exactly the kind of movie that he's in here.
Let me just say, Ronnie Cox said of the script for this movie in an interview with Retro Junk that this movie remains to this day the finest script I have ever read. How those guys messed that film up, I will never know.
Wow.
I don't know, man.
That is, and again, Ronnie Cox is an actor. Like, he's been in a lot of stuff, and this was the best script he'd ever read. Yeah.
But
like
Darren McGavin, you know, it's not often you get the dad from A Christmas Story and the dad from Happy Gilmore.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, and he's just
together.
Great. Together. And then when he gets caught at the end, he's like, oh, hey.
I love it so much. Like,
the homework.
It's hilarious.
The Night Stalker himself just fucking
you're here too?
Like,
that's crazy. What? You come here often?
What? Oh, hey, Mr. President, how's it going? Like, oh my God, just. And again, he knows exactly what movie he's in. He knows exactly how to pitch it. Like, he's doing exactly what he should be doing. And it's fucking amazing. Yeah. He is the grown-ups in this movie are so great. Like, I love, and Ned Beatty too. Like, he chomping on his pencil, just looking all like stressed and studious. And to kind of loop back around to a point that you made earlier, Mike, about like Captain America, how he's this kind of iconic symbol of the 40s. And that's definitely what the MCU does with him, for sure. Like, we get a whole movie establishing him in the 40s before we even bring him to the present day, which is smart. This movie is able to spend this movie doesn't have the time to really dig into that as much as it probably should. But I think what it does, and I think Ned Beatty's character speaks to this, is he becomes kind of an urban legend. He becomes kind of a conspiracy. And so it's only these crazy guys like Ned Beatty's character, like Sam, who's like, no, but you don't understand. There's this guy out there called the Red Skull, and he fought this guy called Captain America, and he went down and like, who's like putting it all together and like making the Charlie Day, like, white like yarn connection board in his office, like
Pepe salad,
chomping on his pencils, like making a meal out of his pencils, like, oh, I'm not getting enough fiber, chomp
That's
pencil
fun.
Like I think that's what this movie is trying to do with it. And I don't think it works for like a broader context, but I think it works for this movie in particular, particularly because you've got Ned Beatty's character in here. I think that sells it personally.
Agreed. Hard agree.
Does the Secret Service not exist in this movie?
No, not at all.
Look, and when he calls, he's like, I know I wouldn't believe it either, but you gotta believe me. Like, there's passcodes, right? Like, he would be able to call and be like, say a series of words and maybe numbers and letters, and they'd be all like, hello, Mr. President, I'll patch you right in, motherfucker. Click.
Right. I don't think they call the president a motherfucker, but other than that, I think you're right.
Depends on how down they are.
I do like, and I gotta say, it was refreshing to have like a president that was like, look, it's going to be medicine. No one wants to take their medicine, but you got to take it now. Otherwise, like, there's going to be a lot of pain later. It's like, oh, like, what a refreshing message. Right? Like someone, it was almost like
a grown up. Finally, there's a grown up in the room.
But like, if like Joe Biden's like, hadn't cognitively declined so much before assuming the presidency, that kind of plain speak that he could have done, like that would have been like Ronnie Cox's president. Except what we got as a guy they had to hide away for 4 years, and he was
punching the shit out of people too in this movie. Like, he was getting in there, dude. He was no slouch.
President Right Cross.
Yeah, dude.
Shooting Nazis. Like, remember when presidents wanted to shoot Nazis? And
y'all remember Air Force One with Harrison Ford? Boy.
Get off my plane.
Yeah, dude. That's that's my president. You guys. That's my president.
He's also going to be your president in Captain America Brave New World, too.
But it's General Ross, and he was.
Except when he's punching people, he's going to be punching people as the Red Hulk.
It makes me sad that other guy died, though, because I really liked him.
William Hurt. We love the Big Hurt.
Yeah,
the Big Hurt's great.
Do you think Harrison Ford knows that he's like a Hulk character? Like, do you, like, honest to God, like, when he goes to the premiere and if he watches the movie. Like, if Harrison Ford, like, even watches the movie, and could you blame, like, 80-something-year-old Harrison Ford to be like, the check cleared. I'm not fucking going to this. Are you kidding me? I'm good. Thank you.
Right.
He's like, I only have so many hours left on this planet. I am certainly not. But do you think when he's like, when the Red Hulk shows up, he's going to be like, what the fuck is that? Like, Harrison, that's your character. He's like, when? I don't remember sitting in a makeup chair. Like, what the fuck?
As funny as that is, in the interviews that I've heard, he seems very enthusiastic about this film. Like, he had a fun time with it, and like he's into it, and he's like, I want to do another one, like, right away.
Which is, again,
characteristically so too, because Harrison Ford, like,
he does not get excited about things.
Notoriously grumpy in the best possible way.
Which tells me one thing about this movie. He got paid a whole fucking lot of money for it. Because that's about the only way to get that man excited anymore.
He had to build another pool just to put the money in.
That's it.
As far as I know, the only thing Harrison Ford really gets excited about is like vor erotica. That, as far as I know, is the only thing that really floats Harrison Ford's boat.
Well,
that's what I've heard. That's if he was like, look, can we get like somehow like the vor subculture represented in like Dial of Destiny? Like, and they're like, no, we can't do that. And
no, Nazis really again. Sorry, it's got to be Nazis again.
Contractually, the only villains Indiana Jones are able to take down are Nazis, and let me just see here. We have Hindu deities, and we have that crossed out 5 times, circled, and a line through it. Apparently, we can't do that anymore, so it's got to be Nazis. Sorry.
I'm just going to say Crystal Skull so much better than Dial of Destiny.
Yes, and it's not even close.
Old man, sad Indiana Jones. I just want to die. Like, I don't want that.
Yeah. Can I tell you that I liked all of those movies, with the exception of Raiders, pretty much equally?
I mean, when you say with the exception of Raiders...
Raiders is higher.
Raiders
right?
is the best. Yeah.
Okay.
Correct. Yes. Okay.
I thought you were going to say that piece of trash. Raiders.
Including that's not that hot of a take. Golly, give me some credit. But I thought Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and I thought Dial of Destiny were good. Like they're not great. They're not fantastic, but I had a good time. I recognized their faults. I didn't have a good time with Dial of Destiny. But then again, you're talking to a guy who kind of like high key actually dug The Flash. So
that's true. You did enjoy Andy Muschietti's The Flash.
I've seen it 4 times by
what
choice.
What is wrong with you?
I wasn't forced. No one forced me, is what I'm saying.
That's why I'm asking. What is wrong with you?
I know I'm wrong. I'm just saying, just know who you're talking to when you consider my opinions.
I do. There are sometimes I feel like I need to take Tucker's recommendations with a grain of salt, but I think he knows my taste well enough to know when something will like when I will enjoy something versus this is something that I like that I'm going to subject you to.
I would never purposefully have you watch something or suggest something to you that I thought that you would dislike. I would suggest something to you that I think that you would respect, but maybe not enjoy, something you would appreciate. You know what I mean? There's some movies where like I'm like, yeah, that's not for me, but I get it. Like that's really rad. Like I would suggest something like that to you, but I'd never suggest something where like, oh, he's gonna hate it. Fuck this guy. Watch this because I like it. I am kind.
Recommendations are tough because I feel like if you give someone a recommendation and they reject it, like they're rejecting a part of you.
Sometimes, yeah.
It's hard to not take that personal sometimes, especially if it's like a deeply felt recommendation. I don't know if would The Flash be a deeply felt recommendation or would that be
I don't know who I would reject that to. I don't know who I would. There's no one that's close to me that I would recommend The Flash to because I realize it's not. I know it's not good, but damn it, if I don't have fun for like 3 hours, having just a fucking blast, and I can't explain it. I know it's bad, but your boy's having fun, so I'm watching it again. And to be honest, I will watch a movie that's not great that I'm having fun watching.
Yeah. Maybe
sometimes before watching a movie that is really great that I'm not having as much fun watching.
Sure.
I do respect the classics. You know, I am a snooty film goer. So I like snooty movies too. I've seen French films, okay? I own silent films, you guys. Come on. But also, I like some old bullshit too.
Which might explain your love for Captain America 1990, a movie that I think is
good.
Fun.
It's fun.
This is fun. No, that's what I'm saying
blast,
too.
Dude.
Like this movie is a lot of, and it feels compared to the modern superhero landscape, it feels like a breath of fresh air. Because I don't have to watch 20 movies to know what's going on here. I can just pop this in and it's going to tell me everything I need to know. And it may not be comic accurate, sit down, shut up, nerd, but I'm going to have fun with it. I'm going to love the fact that like this is a movie where a guy in a comic accurate Captain America suit punches the shit out of some technically not Nazis, Italian businessmen, like some neo-fascists who are masquerading as mobsters or something. That the villains don't make sense in this movie. And I was trying to figure out why they decided to make them all Italian as opposed to German, and I can find nothing.
Because of where they shot, probably. They're probably more Italian actors.
Shot in Yugoslavia, what was formerly known as Yugoslavia.
Well, I think that's a little closer to Italy than it is Germany.
Yeah, looking that up, filming, blah, 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 blah. planned to shoot on location in Italy, moved to cheaper Yugoslavia.
Which feels like a Monaco Poland move, honestly. Like that guy knew how to pinch some pennies, but yeah. Same with Roger Corman, but like
it is. So I couldn't tell you either, like why the villains. I do think another running gag in this is just how incompetent the villains are. Like they keep the game of cat and mouse is very, very fun, and like Captain America riding away on a bike and then falling in the water, and they're like, where did he go? The ocean is so big, he could be anywhere.
My favorite is at the end when the president like kicks in the door of the like 1,000-year-old Italian castle, closes it quietly, and then runs into a corner, and then like 4 people walk in. They can see he's physically not there, but they still try to open the door with the key. Like, I'm just like, come on, guys.
I don't know if it's that or when Cap and Sharon are in like the basement of the old diner and they just hide underneath the stairs where you can visibly see them.
Yep.
And then they like sneak
just gotta look down.
Yeah. Like all you need to do is literally turn your head to the left and it's like, oh, there you are. It's like the worst game of hide and go seek ever. It's pretty great.
It's those elements are hilarious. Again, that this movie is fun. We're having a good time, even if these villains are cartoonishly incompetent. Even if the actor playing the villain, the actor, by the way, from Ohio, sounds more like Bela Lugosi than he does like an Italian gentleman. That accent is suspicious. The kid, the guy that plays Red Skull as a kid, he's Italian, which is probably why he speaks it so effortlessly.
The kid on the tape.
Yeah, the kid on the tape.
That guy.
Do you think he went method and had them really shoot his mother? You know, just for the film, like he was an early young method actor,
like a Victor Fleming move, where you drag the kid aside and say, "We just shot your dog outside," and the kid starts crying. He's like, "Great, that's all I needed. Bring in the dog," like shit like that. Oh god, this
there
movie
is still
so
Billy
wild.
Friedkin on set firing real guns and punching
Steven,
people in the
that
face
guy.
to get that emotion.
I do love Billy Friedkin. Yes, he is. Yeah. One of the crankiest, most irascible filmmakers ever to do the job.
He had made the
we talked about him. Yes,
with
Benicio del Toro, Tommy Lee Jones. Yeah, one of the many movies where Tommy Lee Jones plays a marshal trying to chase down a fugitive from justice.
They could have made that U.S. Marshals 2 or The Fugitive 3, really could have. Or U.S. Marshals Return of the Fugitive Part 3. And Harrison Ford makes a cameo.
Rules of Engagement for the first time.
Yeah.
Okay.
That movie was very racist.
Yes, it was.
Billy, what were you thinking?
I mean,
that movie was.
There are a lot of movies in his filmography. Have you gotten to The Guardian yet?
Oh, I have not.
Might be the worst film he's ever made, honestly.
Okay.
Good luck finding Rampage. That movie does not exist anymore. It is impossible to watch legally in this country. I'm convinced.
Like it's against the law to watch it?
No, I mean you can't find it on physical media anywhere. Like
they were going to come arrest you if you watched it. I would call the police and they would come and get you, and your formal charge would be watching that fucking movie or whatever.
No, it's not streaming anywhere. The last time it was released was on VHS.
Damn, Steve,
and the VHS tapes go on sale for like $50, so it's impossible to find. So good luck finding Rampage.
What if it's on YouTube?
And it's not it's not like a make of the arcade game.
No,
Rampage.
I wish.
Where you would.
I think that Rampage came out the same year as this movie.
That was with the Rock Boy.
A few years earlier with 80s. In our previous episode on The Rock's Rampage. No, this was 1987. It's a Michael Biehn movie. And it has problems, but yeah, not that I've seen it.
I don't think it's on YouTube, but
I just found
you could probably find it at a library.
I just found the Arrow Blu-ray of Cruising used for like $15. I scooped that up. But I'm going to just make sure nobody is home when I'm watching that, because
definitely not.
Yeah, my daughter walked in when I was watching the Doom Generation.
Oops.
And she's like, she walked in during one of those scenes and she's like, what the fuck are you watching? So,
valid question. And here's the thing, Cruising is like,
Cruising is that for
because Billy Friedkin is such a stickler for realism, he legitimately filmed that movie in actual like leather bars and SM clubs in San Francisco, because he is that kind of madman.
Yeah, he's that guy.
Yeah.
So I'll wait till like nobody is home for a couple hours before.
That's smart. But Cruising is a fucking great movie, and I think you're gonna have a good time.
Sorcerer was turned down last night for family movie night.
Oh,
my
the
daughter
disrespect.
Was like, well, yeah, I think it's a bit. She's like, this seems like a bit much for me. So she was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to follow this. I'm like, fair enough.
That's fair.
Throw something else on.
What did you watch instead?
Jackie Brown.
Oh yeah. So whoa,
we had this
coming back to that,
which she really dug.
Yes,
which she really dug.
You
which
guys,
she was like, this is fucking great.
I think
she was so mad when they don't explicitly get together at the end. And I'm like, but that's the beauty. You can write your own headcanon.
I love them.
Exactly.
They're so cute.
Yeah.
Across 110th Street. So good.
Robert Forster is so good in that movie.
Yeah. And
he
she
does
was
so
like,
much
why
with
did
his
he
face
want
in that movie? He's just
Yeah.
he doesn't say
He
as
does.
much. He really I'm sorry, I didn't mean to derail you. I really
go
love
ahead.
that movie. I love the movie so much.
It's a phenomenal movie.
It's the only one of Tarantino's films that I haven't, and I think I will never outgrow. Like, as I get older, there are some films where, like, I liked them before and I still respect them, but they're just not for me anymore. And that's the majority of Quentin Tarantino's catalog. But Jackie Brown will never fall out of that. Such a weird movie to make for your third film, too, because his first two films were so... I don't know, and maybe it's the story that it's based on that brings a maturity to the material, but it's such a more, like, mature film, just in its tone and the way it handles violence, and I love that movie so much. I could talk for hours about Jackie Brown. It's really good. I
wonder if you go back and revisit like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I also feel like is a more mature work for him. And I know you get the third act and you get the like revisionist, like what he wishes history, I think what we all wish history could be at the end of that film. But before that, it is just like a 2-hour hang. And it is gorgeously shot, and it's revolves around I want to spend time with these men. I want to see where this goes. I think the whole like 10 movie rule is bullshit. I think it's I think it's kind of getting up your own ass a little bit, and I'm not someone who's outgrown his movies.
Quentin up his own ass? Never.
I would say that
I still like Death Proof too, but that's different.
Oh yeah. But if you wanted to end on that note, like that would be the perfect note to end on.
He could have never made another film, and even though like I still great. Kill Bill, fantastic. All of that stuff is great, but it's just not, I don't feel like it's for me anymore. But like I said, Jackie Brown, it exists so much outside of what his usual output is. And that's not to say that he doesn't change as a director and as a storyteller, but I think he does kind of have a path that he follows. But Jackie Brown is so... And like I said, I think it's because it's an adaptation, where all of his other stuff is stuff that he's written. And this is from a book, so maybe that kind of brings a bit of that to it.
No, he has a lane. He definitely has a lane. And he can change lanes, but like he has something he likes to do. And I think you've seen that ever since Kill Bill. Like he's kind of been in that similar lane. I think Once Upon a Time is the first time he's really shifted out of that in a long while. I adore that movie. Like to me, like it's
really good.
Nearly 3 hours, and it doesn't feel like it. Like it never feels like it's going on.
It never feels like it's dragging. Weirdly cozy movie too.
It is.
Like
yeah.
based just with the subject matter, you could like curl up in a blanket and watch that movie and just feel really great. Like the whole time, I think. Even the third act.
Well, I have found like blanket movies for me right now. Like I rewatched Neil Simon's The Odd Couple.
Oh
This
yeah.
past, we had a snow day, and I think it's one of the greatest depictions. You have like in here with Ronnie Cox and Ned Beatty, a male friendship that spans a lifetime. But I think with The Odd Couple, you have like a one of the best depictions of male friendship and male love that's ever been brought to screen. Like I don't think it's been topped in a lot of ways. And Mathau's breakdown at the end of the movie when he's like, before you moved in, I was a wreck. I was, faking like I was doing really well. But now you've moved in and I'm miserable and I just want to die. Just like you've ruined me in 3 weeks. Like it's such a moment of honest male vulnerability that was not seen on screen in that era. And it's just wickedly funny. Like the two of them are just incredibly funny together.
Neil Simon is such a sharp writer. And when you can hit his rhythms, there's nothing quite like it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you might say the same for Tolkien, the Stephen Tolkien, the writer of Captain America.
Yeah,
just
it's not J.R.R. Tolkien writing in pseudonym.
Correct.
Not this time.
It is not this time.
Not this time.
It's Stephen Tolkien, spelled Tolkin. And he mostly wrote for television, TV shows like Brothers and Sisters, Switched at Birth, Perception. He's speaking of Neil Simon, like Simon was a writer on his father, Stephen Tolkien's father, was a writer on Your Show of Shows, the Sid Caesar show.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of how he got his start, got his in, and he's just a guy who write. But this is his first movie script that he writes is Captain America.
Good for him. It's a good one.
The
best.
The original,
some would say.
The original script apparently had a lot more characters, had a lot more going on. According to Wikipedia, they said that they were going to try to put the Falcon, one of the Zemos, Baron Zemo, and Bucky
on a
the
$3
original
million budget. I don't think so.
Cannon was originally trying to make this in the 80s with Jeff Bridges as Captain America and Peter Fonda as the Red Skull, which would have been interesting.
I would have watched that.
That could have been fun. Yeah. Then this was when Menachem Golan left Cannon. This movie went with him. At various points in production, Michael Dudikoff was set to play Captain America. At one point, Steve James from Delta Force was looked at to play Sam Wilson, the Falcon. And this was the movie that came out. Like they looked at apparently Dolph Lundgren, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I could see Dolph Lundgren in this role. I don't think it would have been as good, but he would have been okay. I think he wouldn't have ruined it.
He was working on future episode of this podcast, The Punisher. So he couldn't have done this one.
We are going to watch
one
that?
of these days.
I'm so excited.
One of these days, I want to do just all 3 Punisher movies in a row.
Oh, I'm into that. Yeah, I like all those movies for different reasons.
Yeah, we might have to do it when there's a new Punisher thing coming out that's not Daredevil, because obviously we're covering the Ben Affleck Daredevil with Devon at the end of the month.
Director's cut, right? We need to confirm that it's director's cut.
If I can find the director's cut to watch, then
I promise you can. I'll make sure that you can, Steven.
I would like to try to watch
make sure that you can,
if possible.
A winter job. Can you believe that? Who works in the winter?
Apparently Tucker.
This year I do. It sucks.
At one point, Matt Salinger was supposed to play pre-Super Soldier Steve Rogers, and then Howie Long was supposed to play post-Super Soldier Steve Rogers.
See, that's what I was thinking when it was beginning, when I was still under the impression that the Space Mutiny guy was in this. I was like, oh, this guy, maybe he's Steve Rogers before, but I was like, but he's kind of buff. Are they trying to make him not look buff? because he's kind of already buff. Like, he's pretty much there.
Marvel insisted on one actor, and they went with Salinger over Howie Long, probably because only one of those actors was in Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah, dude, but he was good in this.
I would say that was a good choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
He nailed it, especially the car bit. Like, he had me convinced every time. I'm like, oh, is he actually getting sick? No, he fooled me every time. That's why it was so funny. I was like, oh, I hope he's okay. And then he drives off, and I'm like, oh, got me again. Damn,
and then at the end, she does it to him.
Yes.
She does it to him at the end, and he's like, wait, what? I'm like, dude, you've been pulling this trick the whole time, and you can't see it coming?
And that's what he says. So that's what that feels like.
Just like Batman.
Oh, we love you, Christian Bale. What a man.
Do.
What a man.
But yeah, no, I had a lot of fun with this movie. Like, parts of it did hold up to my recollection of it. Like, I had as much fun watching it this time as I did when I was a kid. Like, yeah, it's not a great film, like canonically not like one of the great pieces of cinema, but damn it, if I'm not having a good time watching this movie, there part of it is nostalgia. I will concede, but I'm also just superhero movies aren't fun like this anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, there's always like, everyone's got world-ending stakes. There's a fucking sky beam about to destroy a city.
And look, and nobody making this movie gives a fuck about an Easter egg or even knows what it is. Mm-hmm. They're just making a movie. They're like, I'm not trying to fucking give nerds erections, man. I'm just trying to make a good movie.
Doors open for a sequel, but we're not spelling it out for you. Hey guys, stick around for the next one.
Captain America's still around, so who knows?
Exactly, and that's it. Like, we're ready to fight. Like, you're fighting, you're still fighting, we're still fighting. That's the end of the movie. Let's make more.
There's about a 15-second period of this movie where they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to blow up all of Europe. Like, 70 million people will die. And that plot thread lasts all of 15 seconds.
Yeah, right, it comes and it goes. Like, the stakes get really high for a second.
But only a second. Again, this movie's all about like destroying things for a very brief amount of time. Jack's life is destroyed in an hour. The world is in danger for about 15 seconds. Like, just very brief spurts of danger in this movie.
I will tell you, there's one thing. Now, you've made me think of this. There is one thing that I did not like about this movie. Now that you mention that, and it's that. Playing the tape I wanted that to have more of an impact. I wanted, like, Red Skull is kind of, even without trying and maybe trying not to be, a complicated character in this. Like, his origins are complicated. He's a victim. Red Skull's a fucking victim. And like, I kind of wanted that to pay off. When he played the tape, he'd be like, oh fuck, I realized I sucked like my whole life. Like straight up take me to jail or something. I wanted there to be some sort of, because they sort of built it up to be, even when his daughter, like, she kind of looked at it like, oh, that's fucked up. But then nothing ever came of that. She wasn't like, oh, daddy, stop, or anything.
No, daddy, no.
Like, I wanted that to have a bigger emotional payoff, because it is a disturbing thing, like what happened to that kid. And like, every time they play that tape, it's like, that's fucked up.
That's not this movie, though. That's not this movie. This movie's not going for emotional weight.
No, and that's what, when I give you my rating, that's why it is what it is. Because of that one, just that one. I still love the shit out of this movie, though. I'm gonna watch it again soon, probably within the next 2 weeks. Yeah, because I want to watch it I watched half of it last night, and then I watched it in pieces today because the boy was around and everything was crazy, and I really just want to sit down and take it all in, because if I had much fun with this in pieces, boy, I think it's just gonna blow my mind all this one thing.
Do you think it's worth like hunting down, because there is a director's cut of this?
Ooh.
Like,
I'd watch it. I'd be interested for sure.
My understanding is it takes like that first act, which is set in the 40s, and it intersperses it throughout the film in like flashbacks, and there's a little bit more world building. So I don't know. Work. Like, I'm not sure about it.
I'm interested, is what I'm saying. I would watch it if someone were like, "This is where this is. You can watch it." I would do that pretty immediately.
Shout Factory, I think, did release a collector's edition Blu-ray, so it may be on there. But I know
they're always doing the Lord's work.
Yeah, when I remember, or I heard when First Avenger was coming out, Albert Pune actually like did a road show with his director's cut of this movie, and like sold out a couple shows in like Las Vegas and Houston, like just showing this movie in theaters, and I'm assuming having Q&As after it. But yeah, like
that is fascinating to me. That is,
yeah. This movie has a cult following. People like it.
I get it. I'm part of it now. Thank you for making me watch this movie, Steven. I know I give you a lot of shit for all the god-awful movies that you make me watch.
I do make you watch a lot of shit for this movie, this show.
This makes up for it. Every time one of these hits like this, it's like, I don't even give a shit.
So you forgive me for the Spirit last week?
I would watch 100 Spirits for one Captain America, Steven. I truly, truly would.
Right on.
Special, special movie, you guys.
And look, it's totally free to watch on YouTube. Find it on YouTube. Literally, the whole damn movie is on YouTube.
Even though this is the first time I saw this felt very nostalgic for me, just because of the way this film is presented. It's so of a certain time, especially 100%. Since I'm not familiar with it. It kind of takes me back there a bit. And I'm not a nostalgic guy. I always say nostalgia is the opiate of the boring, which is really stupid, but I think it's kind of funny, so I say it anyway. But I don't know, something like this, I don't feel guilty about, because like it's not real nostalgia.
Right.
It's I don't know, maybe mental illness, who knows? It's something.
A little bit column A, a little bit column B.
Yeah. It's everything.
And that's fine. No.
Yeah.
Mike, final thoughts on Captain America, or any additional thoughts on Captain America?
I had a lot of fun with it. Like it, to both of your points, like it is very much of a time when, like you could get a movie like this and it would find a little bit of a niche audience. And Steven, to your point, like you have like a lot of fond memories of growing up watching it. It's almost like with I Saw the TV Glow, like there's the scenes where they have the I'm trying to think of the name of the show, the Pink Opaque.
Yes.
When he goes back and watches it at the end, and it's just streaming, and it's like a completely different show than what he remembers. Like it's kind of funny how that can work, but this definitely has that almost Saturday afternoon like matinee on your local UHF affiliate.
That's 100% what it was. Yeah.
And that was kind of a wonderful time. I mean, that was kind of this is the kind of movie that if you're like scrolling through Tubi, you're probably never going to like land on and go like, oh, this is what I'm going to watch right now. But like flipping through like 10 stations, this comes on, you're like going to sit through it. Again, just, is it faithful to the comics? No. Is it a bit ridiculous? Absolutely. Is it odd that there doesn't seem to be a score to it? Like it seems like it's just temp tracked in some places, and that's it.
But that theme though is so fun when it kicks in and starts going. I'm getting amped.
Yeah.
And then when he's leaving town, I'm like, did someone like crib Angelo Badalamenti in here? Because it sounds like Twin Peaks. What's going on?
So it was something. It was absolutely the best I can say is this movie is definitely, it's something else. I really enjoyed it. I am not sorry. I can't say that I'm going to go back and like revisit this movie a ton.
Sure.
But it was, I will watch. If you had to say you can only watch this or The Exorcist, The Heretic, I am choosing Captain America, 1990s Captain America.
As you should. Definitely a better movie, and it's not even close. This is kind of a textbook definition of a hangover movie for me. Like if I'm like too hungover to like get off the couch, I'm put like something like Captain America where you can just kind of like snooze in and out and still feel okay. Like that's this movie for me. Like I could absolutely watch this as a hangover movie, 100%. And yeah, it's as fun as I remember it being. Like, are the plastic ears goofy as hell? Yes. Do I care even a little bit? No, I really don't. That's what it is.
I didn't notice until, like, not kidding, the last 20 minutes. And I was like, wait a minute, is it? What the fuck?
Yeah.
So I got lucky. I just wasn't paying attention, I guess, to his ears.
Well, that's when it's most obvious.
Of his costume. And the thing is, he's almost never in his costume.
Right. But the costume is incredibly comic book accurate. It is because that's the way he wore them in the comics. They actually originally the suit had
his actual ears. Why'd they put
chafing
ears?
Tucker? It chafed like a motherfucker.
Well, you better lotion that shit up.
It was easier to just put the plastic ears on. And the only reason it's visible at the end is because they're actually filming in natural light. Like, that's it. That's the reason.
That's why the only reason I noticed it, maybe.
Right. Is because at that, and like the editing is kind of ridiculous in this movie. But again, it's of that time. It's of that, like, that kind of late 80s canon style action aesthetic that was so popular for like 10 minutes in the 80s. No more than 10. It was like for a few years, canon movies were hits. Like, we've talked about a few canon movies on this podcast. We'll talk about others, but it's very much of that style and of that place. And there's a part of me that can't help. It's ridiculous and silly, and I'll be honest, stupid as this movie is at some points. I can't help but kind of love it. Like, is it great? No, but do I like it? Yeah. I do. I truly do. Tucker, any last words before we move on to the box office?
Tell me about the box office, Steven.
So this film was not released theatrically in the United States. So it has no domestic box office numbers whatsoever. It was, however, released internationally in 1990 to coincide with the anniversary of Captain America, the 50th anniversary of Captain America.
Oh, damn, yeah.
To be clear. Yeah.
Dude, yeah.
So it didn't end up getting released in the United States until the 92. It was direct to video and direct to TV, which is how I started watching it. Yeah. So the week it was officially got a US release on video was July 24th, 1992. So that's the box office I'm doing.
Okay.
In the number one spot, a movie I need to see because I've heard enough about it and I just need to knock it off my blind spot list, is the Damon Wayans film Mo Money.
Hey, okay, yeah.
Opening at number one that weekend. Yes, I need to.
I think you'll appreciate it.
I think I will too. I again, it's been on my list for a while. I just need to like buckle down and actually watch it.
Yeah.
Number two, in its second weekend, down from number one the weekend before, a movie that I watched religiously as a child, Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. The sequel to Honey, I Shrunk the Kid.
They blew him up. You know, that first movie was written by not Brian Usna, Stuart Gordon.
Stuart Gordon, yeah.
And he had directed the
I gotta say, in the age of school shootings, Honey, I Blew Up the Kid has a much different...
It really does.
But in the poster, you know he's big, though, so I don't know.
Right.
Any promotions for
and
it.
Again, in the first one, their kids are tiny. In the second one, the kids are huge. Like,
and
that's
then
just...
the parents are tiny in the third one. It's crazy.
Correct. And that one goes straight to video.
And at Disney World, it's you, the audience. Honey, not
I Shrunk the Audience. No, it used to be. I did that ride when I went to Disney as a child. It was fun.
Me too. So cool. And Muppet
Vision 3D.
Yeah.
Soon to be RIP. The last thing that Jim Henson ever directed.
Man, they had at Universal. They had this Hitchcock thing. It wasn't a ride, but like you walked through it, and like you could get your picture taken, like hanging off the Statue of Liberty, and like.
You mean Mount Rushmore?
Yeah, whatever. And like
he did the Statue of Liberty too.
With the Vertigo, right?
Yeah.
Sabotage. Oh, the Vertigo.
No, Sabotage.
Same
thing.
Sabotage. Same
it's not.
thing. But anyway, and they had like you'd sit down and there's this little film with Anthony Perkins, and it was really rad. So much cool stuff. Early Universal, before the Islands of Adventure. It was all about the movies, you guys.
King Kong was fun.
They had an I
awesome.
Love Lucy exhibit, like a little museum and shit. It was crazy. Nuts.
I love North by Northwest, but Sabotage is one of my favorite Hitchcock.
You did a Hitchcock run last year, didn't you?
2 years ago, I did 19, and I'm kind of on another one this year, going through some and kind of.
I haven't seen Sabotage, so I'll have to check that out.
It's fantastic.
Nice.
Right
Making sure I've got the name, because there's Sabotage and there's Saboteur. I just have a habit of.
How many versions of The Lodger did he do?
I am
just
incorrect.
The two?
So
it is Saboteur.
It is Saboteur. Yeah,
I think just
Sabotage is the one where the little kid gets blown up on the bus, which is amazing.
Holy shit!
Yeah, that one is outstanding as well. Saboteur is the one I'm thinking of, where the climax takes place on the Statue of Liberty, and it's very much like an American him remaking the 39 Steps. It is very much him remaking that movie for American audiences. He would remake his films. He did two versions of The Man Who Knew Too Little,
right? The one with Peter Lorre and the one with Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah,
and The Lodger, right?
Yeah.
Did he remake The Lodger?
That was a silent one.
He came. Yep. I don't think he remade Lodger after that, though.
No, it was.
It could be.
Maybe it was an episode. No, I am not an expert to be speaking on this.
I know he did The Trouble with Harry, and then he came back from the dead to do Weekend at Bernie's, which is.
Yeah. There you go. That's how it went for sure.
I love the story that Mel Brooks tells while making High Anxiety about meeting with Hitchcock, and Hitchcock giving him two great jokes, and he goes, and I couldn't use either one of them. They were brilliant, and I couldn't use them.
Why not?
They didn't
couldn't
fit.
He use them? Oh,
they just didn't fit in the script. He couldn't figure out a way. One of my favorite one is the joke my favorite joke that Hitchcock gives him is this guy's they're chasing this guy, and he jumps. He sees a ship. And so he jumps onto the ship and thinks he's safe, but the ship is pulling in instead of pulling out. And that's the joke, is that he's just right in the same position. And
that seems like a Mel Brooks joke, though. That seems like a very
I'm kind of disappointed in Mel for not coming up with that.
Pocket. Yeah,
right. Use that one later, and then lean over to someone and go, Alfred Hitchcock gave me that joke. That's what a flex. Come on, Mel.
Yeah.
Okay, where was I? Oh yeah, in third place, A League of Their Own. 4 weeks in theaters, down from number 2, has made $66 million so far.
Yeah, dude.
In fourth place, the movie that gave us one of the best sequels ever, directed by the great Bill Duke, may he live forever, even though I know he's passed away recently. Sister Act.
Oh yeah.
Which has been in theaters 9 weeks, up from number 5 the week before, has already made over $100 million.
Yo, when is Sister Act 3 coming out?
Mm-hmm.
It's a thing. There's a poster.
Oh, I'm sure
they've filmed it, and I want to see it because 2 was better than the original. Just saying. Back in the act. Yeah.
You know why? Back in the habit.
Because straight up
because
Lauryn
the things
Hill.
they wear are the habit.
Because Lauryn Hill, is that why?
Fucking Bill Duke directed that motherfucker.
Yeah, dude. Sister Act 2 is the shit. That's why I'm looking forward to Sister Act 3. How can they top Sister Act 2? I don't know, but I'm ready for them to.
Because Bill Duke's not coming back to direct.
Yeah, but his spirit is there, dude. He's with them.
Oh, you know what? I misspoke. He is. I don't think he is dead. No, he's still working.
He's directing Sister Act 3.
I don't think that's true.
But what if he were?
I'd probably be more excited about it then, honestly.
You would watch it.
I love Bill Duke. Bill Duke's the man. Love that guy. In fifth place, Boomerang, the Eddie Murphy film Boomerang.
Yeah.
Rounding out the top 10, we have at number 6, Universal Soldier. At number 7, Unlawful Entry. At number 8, speaking of Tim Burton's Batman, Batman Returns.
Hey.
At number 9, Prelude to a Kiss. And at number 10, Strangers Among Us.
Oh, sweet. That's cool.
The Rotten Tomatoes gives this a 6 on the Tomatometer.
Really?
The critics' consensus lacking a script, budget, direction, or star capable of doing justice to its source material.
How fucking
This
dare you?
Captain
Sign
America
me up.
should have been
Hold on.
left under the ice. That is rough.
Oof, calm down.
There is no Metascore for this movie because not enough critics have rated it on Metacritic. However, there is a Letterboxd ranking. Tucker, would you care to take a stab at this movie's Letterboxd ranking?
It could go either way. Let's say cheese Louise, Papa Cheese. Let's do 3.7. No, 2.7. Jeez Louise, sorry. 2.7 and 3.1. Let's run those odds.
Tucker, I'm so sorry. It's a 1.9.
Yeah, well, I mean, Letterboxd does suck, so that makes sense. I didn't account for that. I wasn't thinking fourth dimensionally, Steven.
No, you weren't. You tend to not do that.
I thought outside the boxed when I should have been thinking inside the boxed.
Yeah. Mike, out of 5 stars, how are you rating the 1990 Captain America?
I'm going to go right in the middle with this. I'm going to say it's a solid 2.5 stars for me.
Right on. It gets a 3 from me. The nostalgia of it definitely kind of puts it over that bubble for me. Tucker, what about you? How are you rating this movie?
It's a 3.5.
3.5.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I had a lot of fun with it. But the 1.5, it's all because there was no emotional payoff for that tape, man. Both of them should have been like, oh fuck, what have I done with my life? And I don't know, man, something. They were just like, oh, that sucks. It just distracted him. He's like, mama, and then he throws the shield at him and it's over.
Damn.
It's good. It's still good. It's still really,
the
really good.
The way he throws the shield, you can tell he's not actually letting go of that thing either. He's just raising his arm up and down with the shield in it. It kind of cracks me up and I kind of love it.
It just kind of farts out at the end. That's the problem. It's a fantastic movie and then it just farts out. And that's where the 1.5 star comes off for me. But still solid time. And I'm going to watch it again soon.
Right on.
Anyway, yeah.
Mike, thank you so much for coming on. It is always a pleasure to have you on. Brett was not able to join us tonight, but he sends all of his Valentine's love your way because you are our perennial Valentine. We always keep this spot open for you and you have never declined. And Mike, here's my promise to you. For the past 5 years, we have foisted movies upon you. Mm-hmm. For the most part, you've been fairly agreeable about them. But the last couple of years I know have been a little rougher. From this point forward, pick your own movies.
Last year's was tough. This year was fun. So I'm trying because in Boston, there's the Brattle Cinema. It's our art house cinema. It's where I got to see Wages of Fear and Sorcerer, both for the first time on the big screen, when they were first time watches. Every year they do Casablanca. And I'm trying to convince my wife, let's get out of school early. It's right before vacation. Let's go to the 4:00 showing because we're old. We'll get home at 2:00. And I know if I tell my principal, hey, I want to leave 45 minutes early before the holiday because I want to take my wife to see Casablanca and then go to a nice chocolatier in Boston. She'll be like, get the fuck out of here and go.
Right.
And so far I'm getting I don't think I can do that from the lady. So Casablanca is technically not a franchise.
We've covered it actually.
We did.
Oh,
that was my first episode as a full-time host.
Yeah.
Was Casablanca.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to say, and they did try to make a sequel to it too. So you're on the money. I will send you the list, and I will let you pick anything. Again, from this point forward, Mike, you've done your dues far more than some others.
You think?
So
Shakes the Clown,
and I'm into that.
Oh fuck! There you go.
One of my favorite movies of all time. One of my absolutes.
I was gonna say,
you do love that movie.
Anything that you can ask the question, would they have made more of these had it made money? I think that fits our format. So even if it's not on the list, Shakes the Clown, please.
There would have been a alcoholic clown universe. Are you kidding? And the cat, a young Adam Sandler, Robin Williams, Bill Maher.
Absolutely.
I can't think of her name, but the woman who played Esther on Sanford and Son, who has like the greatest line in cinema history when it's like, well, two of them, when she's like, when the camera goes off, he's gonna fuck that little doggy. One of my favorite lines, that, and I've got the peanut butter pussy, brown, creamy, and easy to spread. I mean, just
oh man,
it is. Have you seen
I have
Shakes the
not.
Clown?
I have
Steven,
not.
you are in. This is one of those, like, I recommend this to anybody.
Okay.
And their reaction to it is like, how much of a friend are they going to be to me? Like,
Oh
are we on
God,
the same?
Our friendship is on the line
wavelength.
now.
Yeah.
Damn.
It's worth
But
mentioning.
we would still be.
I would say it's worth mentioning that this is the directorial debut of Bobcat Goldthwait.
Bobcat Goldthwait.
So
Yeah.
you got to kind of know what you're getting into there.
I've seen a Bobcat Goldthwait movie before. I'm not completely
seen?
unfamiliar.
I mean, yeah,
Father's Day.
Shakes is
Oh,
a little
Father's Day
different
is
though. It's
brilliant.
good. It's not. I mean,
Or no,
I mean-
World's Worst Father. That's what I saw. Sorry.
There you go,
That's
yeah.
the name of it.
World's Greatest Dad.
That's the
Greatest
one.
Dad.
Yes.
and
Yeah.
then the one with the
to
kid and
me-
the killer guy. What was that called? Something America.
God Bless America.
There you go.
God
Yeah.
Bless America.
I like that one.
I've
too.
seen
I
most
feel
of
bad for
his-
liking that one because it's kind of fucked up. but-
I've seen
It's still
most
really
of
good.
his films.
yeah.
You were gonna do.
one-
You and Taffy were gonna do a Bobcat Goldthwait podcast.
We
at one
were.
point.
Oh,
Fizzle.
do
We're
it.
just
I'd listen
crazy
to it.
busy. We were
I'd
just
listen to
crazy
it.
busy.
Right.
It's
What might fit the theme of the holiday though is like, I think it's Man Bites Dog. No, it's not Man Bites Dog. It's a Bobcat Goldthwait movie where it's about a woman who sucked her dog's dick in college on just a yes. And then like that is, that is basically the premise of the film. Like when that secret comes out, like she has to deal with the repercussions of it. And it's pretty brilliant. It's really fucking funny.
Don't know.
Sleeping
So one
Dogs
of those
Lie.
two- Yes.
Don't know that I've
So
seen
one
that.
of those
Oh,
two.
my.
I'm partial to Shakes, but Sleeping Dogs Lie is I mean, I don't know how and if there would be a cinematic universe for dog fellatio movies, but
If anyone could pull it off, it'd be Bobcat.
Please.
something got pulled off and it was the dog.
Everybody wants
Heyo,
that.
There it is.
Everybody's signing up
All
for that
right.
for sure.
I'll stop.
And look, Mike, if they weren't boning yet, they certainly are now.
Oh my god. Absolutely.
Mike, again, it's always a pleasure to have you on. The door's always open anytime. Come on in, sit down. Let's talk about some movies. What's going on with the Pod and the Pendulum right now? We've mentioned it a few times, obviously, but what other projects have you got going on?
Nothing good.
No,
Just I gotta be honest. We're just awful.
Thank you for your
Oh, no.
honesty. We appreciate your transparency.
Part of I feel like we're on a good run right now with the Pod and Pendulum. I'm really proud of the work we're doing
definitely
over there. We're in the middle of covering all of the Exorcist films. Steven is one of our frequent co-hosts, along with Brian Kuiper. We spent 6 hours on the first movie over the course of 2 episodes. We've just posted which you were on, Steven, The Exorcist 2.
right.
Which is a movie that is so bad it actually made me rethink the format. Like literally today I thought about it again as I was shoveling snow. I'm like, will we run out of franchises I want to cover? And what do we do after that?
Right.
But we're in the middle of we're in the middle of covering the Exorcist films. And we typically do like very deep historical dives into the film, and then all the context of where they exist in horror at the time, how it got made, and then we dive into the movie proper with like a lot of humor and diversions.
For sure.
If you ever wanted to know what an Exorcist toy line should look like, you should listen to our episode on Exorcist II: The Heretic.
Correct. Or if
it
you want to
thinks-
learn more about Mike's sequel pitch for Robert Eggers' 2024 Nosferatu, listen to part 1 of our Exorcist 1 episode.
Really?
Too Fast, Too Ferratu pitches. I mean,
Correct.
that's coming soon.
That's the pitch.
So that's the Pod and the Pendulum. There's like 275 episodes.
That's a lot of episodes.
It is a lot of episodes. And I don't know how much longer we can do it before my brain turns to mush.
We at least have to get through this year, Mike. We got a lot planned for this year.
We really do. We've taken on a lot this year. But yeah, you can find us everywhere you get your shows. So
right on. And as for us, we continue to be the Disenfranchised Podcast. This is the 220th episode of this show, and we also have a lot planned for the coming year. So it's buckle in because it's gonna get fun. Honestly, the 5th season is almost completely full at this point.
Yeah,
so
let me know when that's over because there's like things I have to do on the back end. Keep me informed on that.
Understood. I will. I mean, you do have access to the document. I just don't tell you when I update it. Because I update it constant. It's in a constant state of flux. I'm constantly just moving stuff around and scheduling. And
yes, dude.
I'm a madman on that spreadsheet.
He's the maddest man.
I do love spreadsheets.
No man
I get
matter.
really excited about spreadsheets.
Yes, dude.
that's a bit scary.
I know.
No, it's wonderful.
It does help keep us a little organized though, which is helpful for sure.
I trust
it's worked so far. 5 years in, it's still going strong.
Bada bing, bada bing.
You can find us again anywhere you get your podcast. If you wouldn't mind leaving us a nice 5-star rating and review, Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, that's really helpful to help us find more listeners. Shoot us an email, disenfranchpod@gmail.com. Let us know if there are any failed franchise starters you'd like to see us cover. How excited are you to help us to see us cover Shakes the Clown? Let us know. You can also let us know over on patreon.com/disenfranchpod. We've got 2 tiers. There's a completely free tier where we release main feed episodes that you can just comment on and engage in the conversation with us. Or we've got the $5 tier, which is full of it hasn't been updated in a while. Thanks for not canceling your subscriptions, guys. But there is still a lot of content behind that paywall. You can get caught up in the meantime.
Days, dude. And that's like, I'm not talking about like taking breaks, but like continuously listening to all the content on our Patreon for days, not even including the main feed episodes. That's some days.
What are we watching? We got Oops All Christianity Corner, Oops All Video Game Corner, Disenfranchised, Unenfranchised. We've got a couple commentary tracks that we did for Muppet Family Christmas
and Adam's Family
Values. Yeah, Adam's Family Values commentary as well. Like, there's a ton of stuff up there for you to engage with. So go over there, have a good time. Pay us $5 if you want. If not, sign up for the free feed and talk to us because Tucker and I do respond on those episodes when we have stuff to say.
And we are working on Patreon content. It's just our schedules used to be a lot easier when it came to Patreon stuff.
And then Tucker got another job, and then Brett started working nights.
I feel like we're gonna get there again.
We will.
We'll get into sync again, and then we'll be pumping shit out. Like that
I'm
wasn't
moving in a month, so there's that. We got a lot going on.
Figure it out for sure. So don't give up on us yet. I'll let you know when it's time to give up on us, patrons.
We'll cancel the Patreon at that point.
We'll just close it down. Make it all free.
At $5 a month, if you're just doing it to support the show, you're basically paying $1 a month for like the main feed, which, as you can see, like it's a lot. I feel certain ways about podcasting and the way it's evolved over the past few years, and that it's much harder now for smaller, non-networked, independent shows to find an audience. Like everything is on a network, and it feels like there's like a lot of performers and celebrities that don't necessarily need this market have jumped into it and have crowded the space. So
100%.
If you have an indie, and if you're 2 hours into listening to an episode that tangentially talks about 1990s Captain America, when you are a fan of the show, it will cost you like the price of a cup of coffee to make sure that you keep the lights on. And I don't think that is a lot to ask for.
And even if it's not something, this is going to sound weird, you guys. So ever since Dr. Demento went purely digital, I've paid for this subscription every month. It's $10 a month. You get a new episode every week, and you have access to like every other Dr. Demento episode ever. And it's fantastic. Now, there was a time where I listened to Dr. Demento every week when it dropped. I would listen to back episodes, all kinds of shit. I was very into it.
I remember those days as well.
Probably the last. Well, it comes and it goes. Like, I was way into it when I was a teenager, and then I was way into it when it went digital, and then I kind of fell off, and then I was way into it kind of during the pandemic, and then I've fallen off. But I don't think I've listened to it maybe once in the last 3 years. I still pay for it because, like, I just want to support it. Even if I'm not listening to it, it's something that, like, I want to continue, whether I'm listening to it or not. So don't try to remember that you haven't canceled that subscription. Just forget about it. Just let it ride.
We do try to sing for our supper when we can, but for the most part, you know, we're still out here cranking out the main feed episodes that you love. So
yes.
And again, as Mike said, I don't know why people listen. I don't know why we still have listenership after 3 years or 5 years on this show, but I'm so glad we do. I'm so glad people have found something to enjoy in this show because we continue to enjoy making it. Like, the fact that we still make it means that we still enjoy it. Like, we haven't gotten sick of it yet, and I'm so glad other people haven't as well.
That's true. Longest Patreon plug ever.
Right. You can also find us on Blue Sky, YouTube, Letterboxd. I think that's all we're on these days because I'm getting off of the meta. At Disenfranch Pod. You can find me, Stephen Foxworthy. I'm on Blue Sky and Letterboxd. I think that's all I'm plugging these days. Sweet. At Chewy Walrus. Brett, who is again not here. I think he was out fighting evil in Rome last time I checked, which may or may not be in Yugoslavia. He is also out, but sends you all his Valentine's love as well. Most of it was for Mike, but the rest of it is for you guys. And you can follow him on Letterboxd at sus_warlock. Tucker, where can we find you on socials?
I am still, for the moment, on Instagram. Don't know how long that's going to last, but I will always and forever be on the YouTubes. And in both of those places at the moment, you can find me at Ice909. That's ICENINE, the number 0 and the number 9. Also, Tuck Mugs still exists in its original form at the moment. And we'll see.
Tuck_mugs.
Yeah,
on the Instagram.
Still accepting guest mugs. If it moves somewhere else or something happens to it, your guest mug will be preserved. So
crystallized in amber for all time.
Yeah, I don't.
In fact, we just may move all the posts from whatever the old platform to the new one.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Yeah, I want to talk with you about that, Steven. Not tonight because I gotta go.
God no.
I gotta get out of here.
We gotta shut this thing. I know Mike was like, I want to be in bed by 10, and it's like 10:20.
It's 10:20, and this is my time, Steven. I got kids. This is my time. I need to drink. All right. Okay.
In that case, I've already had a drink.
All right, gentlemen, it's been a lot of fun.
Yes, it has. So thank you so much to all of you for joining us for this, again, very special Valentine's episode. They're all Valentine's episodes when Mike Snoonian's around because we have nothing but love for the guy. He is the best and continues to be the best. Thank you again for joining us.
Very sweet of you.
You are always going to be our president, Mike.
For sure.
And so to you, we say, hey, Mr. President, thanks.
And
to you listeners, this has been our Captain America episode of the Disenfranchised podcast. For Tucker, for the absent Brett Wright, and for the amazing Mike Snoonian. Until next time, stop calling me your brother.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he was mad about that.
He was really mad about that. I mean, I'd be mad too if a Nazi started calling me brother. Yeah. And if his heart went out to me and all that. Yeah, I'd be mad.
If only they played that tape earlier.
If only.